Some men buy Teslas when the marriage gets rocky. I check credit card bills. Less fun, more revealing. My name is Grant Halston, and I'm 48 years old with a receding hairline, a growing gut, and a talent for finding money that doesn't want to be found. I run a corporate tax consulting firm in downtown Boston, which sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry on a rainy Tuesday. But here's the thing about being a financial hound. Once you develop a nose for bullshit, it works on everything, not just quarterly reports. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The morning everything started unraveling, I was sitting in my home office with a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, staring at our American Express statement. My wife Elise had been having a lot of inspiration dinners lately. Apparently, graphic design required an enormous amount of late-night inspiration at boutique hotels and wine bars I'd never heard of. "Grant, honey, I'm heading out for another client meeting," Elise called from the hallway. She appeared in my doorway looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine, auburn hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless, wearing a dress that cost more than most people's rent. "Another inspiration dinner?" I asked, not looking up from the statement. She laughed, that tinkling sound that used to make my heart skip, but now just made me tired. "You know how it is with creative work. Sometimes the best ideas come after hours." "Right. With Cory Lane again?" The silence stretched long enough for me to count 3 heartbeats. When I finally looked up, Elise's face had that deer in headlights expression people get when they realize they've been caught in a lie but haven't figured out which lie yet. "Cory's an old friend from college. He's helping me network with some potential clients. At the Fairmont Hotel bar, until 2 in the morning, on a Tuesday." Another pause. "You're tracking my location?" "We share an account, sweetheart. I can see where our credit cards get swiped. It's not exactly NSA-level surveillance." Elise shifted her weight from one designer heel to the other. "Grant, you're being paranoid. Cory is married to Alicia. You met them at the charity gala last month, remember?" I remembered. Cory Lane was one of those guys who looked like he'd stepped out of a men's health magazine. Tall, tan, perfect teeth, and the kind of confidence that comes from never having to check a price tag. His wife Alicia was equally impressive in a terrifying sort of way. Sharp-eyed, sharp-tongued, and sharp-dressed. Old money with new attitude. "Right, married Cory, who apparently needs a lot of late-night creative consultation." "Don't wait up tonight," Elise said, already turning away. "This might run late." After she left, I sat there staring at the credit card statement. 3 months of inspiration dinners with Cory, always at expensive places, always on nights when Alicia was out of town, according to her very public social media presence. My assistant Miriam knocked on my office door around 10 that morning. She was 32, wickedly smart, and had the kind of dry sense of humor that made even tax season bearable. "You look like someone stole your lunch money," she said, setting a fresh cup of coffee on my desk. "Worse, someone's stealing my wife's attention." Miriam raised an eyebrow. "Elise? Really? I thought you two were solid." So did I. Apparently, she's been having creative meetings with Cory Lane. You know, the guy who looks like he was carved out of a Ken doll. "Cory Lane?" Miriam's expression shifted slightly. "Tall guy, drives the silver Maserati, thinks he's God's gift to private equity?" "That's the one. You know him?" "We've crossed paths. He's got a reputation for crossing paths with a lot of married women." Something in her tone made me look up sharply. "Miriam, please tell me you're not—" "Relax, boss. I'm not stupid enough to get involved with a married man, but I know someone who did, and let's just say Cory Lane's idea of discretion is texting dick pics from his work phone." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Jesus, Miriam." "Hey, you asked. Look, Grant, I like you. You're a good boss and a decent guy. If Elise is messing around with Cory Lane, she's making a mistake that's going to blow up in everyone's face. including mine. Especially yours. But here's the thing. Guys like Cory always leave a paper trail, and if anyone can follow a paper trail, it's you. She was right. I spent the rest of the morning doing what I do best, following the money. Shared location history showed Elise and Cory at the same places, same times, for months. Hotel charges on his corporate card matched restaurant charges on ours. Even their Uber rides were coordinated. But the real kicker came when I checked Elise's phone records. 347 text messages to Cory's number in the past month, at all hours, including several at 3 a.m. that lasted for over an hour. Either my wife had developed a sudden passion for overnight business strategy sessions, or I was the punchline to a joke I hadn't realized was being told. I was still staring at the evidence when my phone buzzed, a text from Elise. "Dinner running late again. Don't wait up." The heart emoji was a nice touch, really sold the whole loving wife thing. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. Alicia Lane answered on the second ring. "Grant? This is unexpected." "Hi, Alicia. I think your husband and my wife are having dinner together. Care to join me for dessert?" Alicia Lane was the kind of woman who could make a funeral director nervous. When she walked into Mistral, the upscale Back Bay restaurant, where our respective spouses were having their business dinner, she moved like a shark. "Table for 2, I told the hostess. "We're meeting friends." The hostess, a young woman with the kind of practiced smile that comes from dealing with Boston's elite, led us through the dining room. I spotted them immediately: corner booth, intimate lighting, Elise laughing at something Cory was saying while he leaned close enough to count her eyelashes. "There they are," I murmured to Alicia, "having a very professional discussion about graphic design, I assume?" Alicia's smile could have cut glass. How wonderfully creative of them. We approached their table like a perfectly coordinated military operation. Elise saw me first, her face cycling through surprise, panic, and finally settling on a guilty smile that wouldn't have fooled a kindergartner. "Grant, what a surprise. Cory and I were just sleeping," Alicia suggested pleasantly, sliding into the booth next to her husband. "Because that's what it looks like from here." Cory had gone pale under his expensive tan. "Alicia, this isn't what—" "Shut up, Cory." She turned to Elise with the kind of smile that made polar bears look cuddly. "You must be the graphic designer my husband has been consulting with. How lovely to finally meet you." I sat down next to Elise, who had started fidgeting with her napkin like it held the secrets of the universe. "Honey, you didn't tell me Alicia would be joining us. I would have made a reservation for 4. "Grant, please, let me explain." "Oh, I'd love an explanation." I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. "Because I've been looking at some very interesting data. Location histories, credit card statements, phone records. It's amazing what you can learn when you know where to look." Elise's eyes darted to Cory, who was staring at his wine glass like it might offer him an escape route. His shirt was misbuttoned, I noticed. His collar had a faint smudge of lipstick that matched Elise's shade exactly. "This is ridiculous," Elise said, her voice climbing an octave. "Cory and I are working together. We're developing a business relationship." "Is that what you call it?" Alicia reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. "Because I call it adultery." She slid the envelope across the table to Cory. "Divorce papers, already filed. You have 30 days to respond." Cory's wine glass slipped from his fingers, sending Pinot Noir cascading across the white tablecloth. "Alicia, you can't—" "I can, and I did. Prenup's ironclad, darling. You get nothing except the clothes on your back and whatever dignity you can scrape together. Which, judging by your current situation, isn't much." I pulled out my own folder and placed it in front of Elise. "Your client emails, the ones where you forwarded confidential information to Cory's company, the expense reports where you billed personal dinners as business meetings, and my personal favorite, the text chain where you told him he was Hotter than your husband's quarterly reports. Elise's face had gone white. How did you… Cloud backup, sweetheart. We share an account, remember? Every text, every email, every photo gets automatically synced, including the ones you thought you deleted. The table next to us had gone quiet. I glanced over and nearly laughed out loud. Mr. DeWitt, Elise's biggest client and a man who valued honesty above all else, was sitting with his wife, clearly listening to every word. "Hello, Mr. DeWitt," I said pleasantly. "Lovely evening, isn't it?" The older man nodded grimly. "Indeed it is, Grant. Very… educational." Elise followed my gaze and made a small sound like a balloon deflating. "Mr. DeWitt, I can explain." "No need, my dear. I heard quite enough." He stood up, leaving a 20 on his table. "Consider our contract terminated, effective immediately." That's when things really went to hell. Cory tried to stand up, probably planning some kind of dramatic exit, but Alicia grabbed his wrist. "Sit down, you pathetic excuse for a husband. We're not done here." "I don't have to listen to this," he said, but his voice cracked like a teenager's. "Actually, you do." Alicia's smile was absolutely terrifying. "Because if you leave now, I'll make sure everyone in Boston knows exactly what kind of man you are. Your business partners, your golf buddies, your mother, everyone." Elise was frantically typing on her phone, probably trying to call an Uber. I watched her face change as she realized what was happening. "Grant, my credit cards aren't working. That's because I froze all our joint accounts about 10 minutes ago. Funny thing about being married to a financial consultant. I know exactly how to cut off the money supply." She stared at her phone screen, which was showing a zero balance notification. "You can't do this." "Actually, I can. Suspected fraudulent activity. Very common in cases of identity theft. Takes about 72 hours to sort out minimum." Miriam appeared at our table like a guardian angel in a business suit. "Sorry I'm late," she said cheerfully. "Traffic was murder." Elise looked confused. "Miriam? What are you doing here?" "Oh, didn't Grant tell you? I've been helping him gather evidence. Amazing what people will tell you when they think you're on their side." She turned to Cory with a smile that could have powered the city. "Remember me, sweetie? 3 months ago, hotel bar. You told me all about your unhappy marriage and your exciting new girlfriend." Cory's face went from pale to green. "You said you were a marketing consultant." "I said I worked in consulting. I never specified what kind." Miriam sat down at the table like she was joining old friends for dinner. "Grant's been very generous with my bonus this quarter, enough to cover all those hotel drinks where you spilled your guts about your affair." The restaurant had gone completely quiet around us. I could feel dozens of eyes watching our little drama unfold. Alicia stood up, smoothing down her dress. "Well, this has been delightful, but I have papers to serve and assets to freeze. Cory, don't bother coming home. I had the locks changed this afternoon." She walked away without looking back, leaving Cory sitting there like a deflated balloon. Elise was still staring at her phone. "Grant, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling, we can get divorced," I said, standing up. "Miriam, would you mind calling Mrs. Patterson from the office? Tell her I'll need those divorce papers drawn up first thing Monday morning." "Already on it, boss." I looked down at Elise, sitting there in her expensive dress with her perfect makeup running slightly from the tears she was trying not to shed. "You always said you wanted more excitement in your life, honey. Congratulations. You're about to get more than you ever bargained for." I walked out of the restaurant feeling lighter than I had in months. Behind me, I could hear Elise trying to explain to the waiter that she couldn't pay the check. If revenge is a dish best served cold, I was opening a drive-thru. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp October clarity that makes you believe anything is possible. I was in my office by 7, coffee in hand, ready to begin what I was already thinking of as the systematic dismantling of 2 very foolish people. Miriam knocked on my door at 8 sharp. "Morning, boss. Sleep well?" "Like a baby, a very vindictive baby with excellent financial records." She grinned and set a thick folder on my desk. Phase 1 is complete. I've compiled everything we discussed. Bank records, location data, the works. Terry's already reviewed it for the divorce proceedings. Terry Kowalski was my lawyer and best friend since college. He specialized in divorce cases and had the kind of reputation that made cheating spouses break out in cold sweats. What's his assessment? His exact words were, "She's sleeping 6 ways from Sunday." He was particularly impressed with the evidence of her forwarding confidential client information to Cory. That's not just adultery, that's professional misconduct. Exactly. He's already reached out to the Massachusetts Board of Professional Licensing. Apparently, they take a dim view of designers who breach client confidentiality. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, I found a photo of Elise and Cory from Saturday night, taken through the restaurant window. They were leaning across the table toward each other, looking every inch the guilty lovers. "Miriam, did you send that to the Boston Herald's gossip columnist?" "Maybe." Her grin was absolutely wicked. Amazing what freelance photographers can capture when they're in the right place at the right time. The Herald hit the stands at noon. By 12:30, my phone was ringing off the hook. The headline read, "Love Triangle Explodes at Back Bay Bistro," with a full-color photo of our dinner confrontation. The article was a masterpiece of innuendo and carefully sourced facts. Elise called me around 1 o'clock, sobbing. "Grant, how could you do this to me? Everyone's seen the paper. My clients are canceling left and right." "Funny how the truth has a way of getting out," I said, not bothering to hide my satisfaction. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to turn our marriage into a joke. I made a mistake, okay? But this is destroying my career." "Your career?" "Sweetheart, your career destroyed itself the moment you started forwarding client files to your boyfriend. I just helped people connect the dots." She hung up on me, which was fine. I had work to do. The afternoon brought even better news. Alicia called around 3. "Grant, darling, I hope you don't mind, but I've taken the liberty of having Cory's precious Maserati towed." "Parking violations?" "Outstanding tickets. Amazing how many parking tickets a man can accumulate when he's too busy thinking with his dick to pay attention to street signs. The car's in impound. It'll cost him $1,500 to get it back." Assuming he has $1,500. Well, that's the beautiful thing. I froze all our joint accounts this morning. His personal account has about $300 in it. Apparently, he's been spending our money on hotels and expensive dinners for months. I was beginning to really like Alicia Lane. "There's more," she continued. "I've also informed his business partners about his extracurricular activities. Turns out they're very concerned about someone who shows such poor judgment in his personal life handling their investments." "Concerned enough to do something about it?" "Concerned enough to ask for his resignation. Effective immediately." By 5 o'clock, Cory Lane had gone from successful businessman to unemployed adulterer with no car, no money, and no prospects. It was a beautiful thing to witness. But I wasn't done. That evening, I drove to the parking garage where Cory worked, or used to work. I found him sitting on a concrete barrier, staring at his phone like it might suddenly start dispensing cash. "Rough day?" I asked, walking up to him. He looked up, and I was shocked by how much he'd aged in just a few days. The confident, handsome man from the restaurant had been replaced by someone who looked like he'd been hit by a truck. "What do you want, Grant?" "To talk, man to man." "I don't have anything to say to you." "That's okay. I have plenty to say to you." I sat down on the barrier next to him, close enough to smell the desperation. "You know what I do for a living, Cory?" "You're an accountant or something." "Tax consultant. I find money that people are trying to hide. I'm very good at it. And right now I'm thinking about taking a very close look at your business dealings, your expense accounts, your tax returns, your investment records." His face went pale. "You can't do that." "Actually, I can. See, when you mess with someone's wife, you make it personal. And when things get personal, I get very thorough. I stood up, brushing dust off my pants. Stay away from Elise. Stay away from my life. Because if I see you anywhere near either one, I'm going to audit your existence until you wish you'd never been born. I walked away, leaving him sitting there in the gathering darkness, but the real confrontation was still coming. Thursday night, Elise showed up at our house. She'd been staying with her sister since the restaurant incident, but apparently, she decided it was time to collect her things. I was waiting for her. "The locks haven't been changed yet," I said as she walked through the front door. "I figured you'd want to get your stuff." She looked around the living room like she was seeing it for the first time. "Grant, we need to talk." "Do we? Because I thought we covered everything pretty thoroughly at dinner the other night." "I know you're angry." "Angry?" I laughed, and it sounded harsh even to my own ears. "Elise, I'm not angry. Angry is what you feel when someone cuts you off in traffic. This is something else entirely." She sat down on the couch we'd picked out together 5 years ago. "What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? I am. That I made a mistake? I did. That I want to fix this? I do." "You want to fix this? Okay. Let's start with the 3 months of lying. Then we can move on to the professional misconduct, the public humiliation, and the complete destruction of any trust I ever had in you. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "How was it supposed to happen, Elise? You were going to leave me for Cory? Or were you just going to keep screwing him while I paid the bills?" She started crying then. Real tears this time, not the crocodile tears from the restaurant. "I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. Cory made me feel alive again." "And I made you feel what? Lifeless? Comfortable, safe, boring." The word hit me like a slap. Boring. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. And you know what? You're right. I am boring. I pay the bills on time. I remember anniversaries. I don't cheat on my wife with married men. Terribly boring of me. I walked over to the window and looked out at our perfectly manicured lawn. "You always wanted more drama in your life, Elise. Well, congratulations. You're about to get more than you ever imagined." "What do you mean?" I turned back to face her. "I mean that by the time I'm done, you're going to wish you'd never heard the name Cory Lane. You're going to wish you'd stayed in your boring little marriage with your boring little husband. Grant, you're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared. Because tomorrow morning, Terry's filing for divorce. We're going for everything, the house, the savings, the retirement accounts. And given your recent professional misconduct, I think we've got a pretty good case for keeping most of it." She stood up, swaying slightly. "You can't do that. Watch me." That's when she made her biggest mistake. She tried to grab my car keys from the kitchen counter, probably planning some kind of dramatic exit, but I was ready for her. "Those are my keys, Elise. I need to get out of here." "Call an Uber." "Oh wait, you can't. Your credit cards are still frozen." She grabbed the keys anyway and ran for the garage. I followed her, pulling out my phone to start recording. The garage door was open, and she was already in my BMW when the car alarm started blaring. Motion sensors triggered by my phone app. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. "Get out of the car, Elise." "No, I'm leaving." That's when the neighbors started coming out to see what was happening. Mrs. Chen from next door, the Johnsons from across the street, even old Mr. Murphy who never left his house after 6 p.m. The police arrived about 10 minutes later, called by someone who reported a possible car theft in progress. I was standing in the driveway, still recording, while Elise sat in my car screaming about her rights. "That's my wife," I told Officer Martinez when he asked for an explanation. "She's trying to steal my car." "Sir, if you're married, we're separated. Divorce papers were filed this morning. She has no legal right to that vehicle." It took another 20 minutes to sort out, but eventually, Elise was escorted out of the car and off the property. The whole thing was captured on my phone in beautiful high definition. I posted it to social media that night with the hashtag #CheatersNeverProsper. It went viral by morning. Friday morning brought a legal notice that made my coffee taste even better than usual. Elise was fighting for the house and spousal support, claiming she'd been emotionally abused and financially coerced into signing a prenup that heavily favored me. I was still laughing about it when Alicia called. "Grant, darling, have you seen the news?" "Which news would that be?" "Channel 5 just ran a segment about cheating spouses and social media shaming. They used your video as their lead story." I turned on the TV just in time to see my garage confrontation playing out in living color on the morning show. The anchor, a serious-looking woman with perfect hair, was discussing the ethics of public humiliation in the digital age. "This is beautiful," I said. "It gets better. Cory tried to get his job back yesterday, showed up at his old office, begging his partners to reconsider." "And?" "They had security escort him out. Apparently, he made quite a scene. There's video of that too." The war was escalating, and I was winning every battle, but Elise wasn't giving up without a fight. Around noon, Miriam buzzed my intercom. "Boss, you need to see this." She handed me a printed email from Elise's lawyer, demanding that I cease all harassment and defamation of his client. The letter threatened legal action if I didn't remove the social media posts and stop interfering with her ability to earn a living. Her ability to earn a living? I read the letter twice. She interfered with her own ability to earn a living when she started forwarding client files to her boyfriend. "There's more. She's claiming you've been stalking her." "Stalking her? I haven't even seen her since the garage incident." Apparently, showing up at Cory's office counts as stalking by proxy. I was still processing this when Terry called. "Grant, we need to talk. Elise's lawyer is pushing hard for a settlement. They're claiming you've been engaging in a campaign of harassment designed to destroy her reputation." "Her reputation destroyed itself." "I know that, and you know that, but a judge might see it differently. The social media posts, the public confrontations, the leaked photos, it could be construed as vindictive." "It is vindictive. That's the point. The point is to get through this divorce with your assets intact and your freedom preserved. If they can paint you as an abuser, you could end up paying alimony for the rest of your life." That gave me pause. "What do you recommend?" "Lay low for a while. Let the legal process work. Stop posting on social media and avoid any more public confrontations." I hung up feeling frustrated. The idea of backing down while Elise played the victim made my teeth itch. But Terry was right. I needed to be smart about this. That resolution lasted exactly 4 hours. At 5:30, I was leaving the office when I saw them. Elise and Cory, sitting in his rental car in the parking garage, obviously waiting for me. She was animated, gesturing wildly, while he sat slumped behind the wheel looking like a man who'd given up on life. I walked over and tapped on the driver's side window. Cory rolled it down slowly. "Grant, we just want to talk." "Talk about what?" Elise leaned over from the passenger seat. "About ending this. You've made your point. We screwed up. We're sorry. But this has gone far enough." "Has it?" "Because from where I'm standing, it feels like it's just getting started." "Grant, please," Cory said. "I lost my job, my wife, my house. Elise lost her clients, her reputation, her career. Isn't that enough?" I looked at them. Two people who'd thought they were so clever, so entitled, so sure they could have their cake and eat it too. Now they looked like refugees from their own bad decisions. "You want to know what's enough?" I said. "Enough would have been not screwing my wife. Enough would have been showing some respect for the institution of marriage. Enough would have been thinking about the consequences before you decided to turn my life into a joke." "We get it," Elise said. "We made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pay a parking ticket. What you did was a choice, a series of choices, made over months, with complete disregard for anyone but yourselves." Cory started the car. "This isn't over, Grant." "You're absolutely right. It's not." They drove away. but I could see them in my rearview mirror as I left the garage. They were arguing now, probably blaming each other for their current situation. That weekend, I got a call from Mr. DeWitt. "Grant, I hope you don't mind me calling you at home." "Not at all, sir. What can I do for you?" "I wanted you to know that I've been talking to some of my colleagues about your wife's situation. Word travels fast in our circles." "I imagine it does. The consensus is that you've handled this with remarkable restraint. Many men would have resorted to violence." "Violence never solves anything, Mr. DeWitt. It just creates new problems." "Quite right, which is why I wanted to extend an invitation. I'm hosting a corporate gala next Friday night at the Fairmont. Boston's business elite will be there. I'd like you to attend as my guest." "That's very generous of you, sir, but I'm not sure this is the best time." "Nonsense. You're a respected member of this community, Grant. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Besides, I think you'll find the evening illuminating." Something in his tone made me curious. "Illuminating how?" "Let's just say that certain people have been making inquiries about attending, people who weren't invited but seem to think they can force their way in. Elise and Cory, they were planning something." "I'll be there," I said. "Excellent. And Grant, you might want to prepare some remarks. I have a feeling you'll have an opportunity to address the crowd." Monday morning brought confirmation of what I'd suspected. Miriam had been monitoring Elise's social media accounts and discovered a series of private messages between her and Cory. "They're planning to crash the gala," she said, showing me the screenshots. "They want to publicly expose you as an abusive husband who's been systematically destroying their lives." "Expose me? That's rich." It gets better. They've been reaching out to reporters, trying to get media coverage for their brave stand against domestic abuse. Domestic abuse? I never laid a finger on either of them. They're claiming emotional and financial abuse. Apparently, freezing the credit cards was economic terrorism, and the social media posts were psychological warfare. I had to admire their creativity, if not their honesty. What's their endgame? Public sympathy. They think if they can paint themselves as victims, they can rebuild their reputations and maybe even get some kind of settlement out of you. Over my body. That's what I figured you'd say, so I took the liberty of preparing a little surprise for them. She handed me a flash drive. Everything. Every text, every email, every photo, every lie. All organized chronologically with timestamps and location data. If they want to make this public, let's make it really public. The gala was 5 days away. 5 days to prepare for what I was already thinking of as the final battle. But first, I had one more surprise to arrange. The Fairmont Hotel's grand ballroom was a monument to Boston's old money elegance. Crystal chandeliers, marble columns, and enough gilt to fund a small country. Mr. DeWitt's corporate gala was the kind of event where deals worth millions got made over champagne and small talk. I arrived early, wearing my best tuxedo and carrying Miriam's flash drive in my jacket pocket like a loaded weapon. The guest list read like a who's who of New England business elite. Bank presidents, real estate moguls, tech entrepreneurs, and old money families whose names were carved into buildings around the city. "Grant, you clean up nicely." Alicia Lane appeared at my elbow, resplendent in a black evening gown that probably cost more than most people's cars. "Alicia, you look absolutely lethal." "Thank you, darling. I do try." She sipped her champagne and surveyed the crowd. "Any word from our wayward spouses?" "Miriam's been monitoring their social media. Last post was 2 hours ago. Elise at a hair salon getting ready for a big night. They're coming." "Excellent. I've been looking forward to this." The evening progressed with the usual cocktail party rhythm, networking, small talk, and the kind of polite conversation that concealed razor-sharp business negotiations. I worked the room, shaking hands and accepting condolences about my difficult situation, with the kind of grace that would have made a diplomat proud. Around 9 o'clock, Miriam appeared at my side. She was wearing a stunning red dress and a smile that made me freeze. "They're here," she whispered. "Just came through the main entrance. Hotel security tried to stop them, but they're claiming to be your guests." I looked toward the entrance and saw them, Elise in a white dress that was probably meant to symbolize her innocence, and Cory in a rented tuxedo that didn't quite fit. They looked like crash survivors at a wedding. "Showtime," I murmured. They made their way through the crowd like sharks cutting through water, leaving a wake of whispered conversations and raised eyebrows. Several people recognized Elise from the newspaper photos, and I could see the recognition spreading through the room like ripples in a pond. Mr. DeWitt stepped up to the podium at the front of the ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention for a moment." The room quieted, but I could see Elise and Cory positioning themselves near the front, clearly planning to make their move during the speeches. Tonight, we celebrate not just business success, but the values that make success meaningful: integrity, honesty, and respect for the institutions that bind our society together. Elise chose that moment to step forward. "Excuse me," she said, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent ballroom. "I think the people here deserve to know the truth about one of your honored guests." A collective intake of breath rippled through the crowd. This was better than theater. "The truth?" I said, stepping forward. "By all means, Elise. Let's talk about the truth." Cory moved to stand beside her, trying to look noble and failing miserably. "Grant Halston has been systematically destroying our lives because we fell in love. He's used his financial expertise to ruin us professionally and personally." "Fell in love?" Alicia's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Is that what you call adultery now?" The crowd was riveted. I could see phones coming out, people starting to record. This was about to become the most documented public humiliation in Boston's social history. "We made mistakes," Elise said, her voice shaking slightly. "But what Grant has done to us is cruel and vindictive. He's frozen our assets, destroyed our careers, and turned our private pain into public entertainment." "Private pain?" I pulled out my phone and connected it to the ballroom's AV system. Mr. DeWitt had made sure I'd have access. "Let's talk about private pain." The screens around the ballroom lit up with the first photo: Elise and Cory at the hotel bar, clearly intimate, clearly more than friends. "This is from 3 months ago," I said conversationally, "while I was working late to pay for the hotel room you were booking." The next slide was a text message thread. Elise's words to Cory, displayed in 20-foot letters for everyone to see. "Grant's at another boring client dinner. Come over. I'll make it worth your while." Elise had gone white. "Grant, stop, please." "Stop, but we're just getting to the good part." Another slide, Cory's response. "Can't wait to see you. Wear the red lingerie I bought you." The crowd was absolutely silent now, transfixed by the digital train wreck unfolding before them. "Here's my personal favorite," I said, advancing to the next slide. "Elise forwarding confidential client information to Cory's company. That's not just adultery, folks. That's professional misconduct." Mr. DeWitt stepped forward. "I can confirm that Ms. Halston breached her contract with my company by sharing proprietary information with unauthorized parties." Cory made a desperate attempt to salvage the situation. "This is all taken out of context." "Context?" Miriam appeared beside me, microphone in hand. "Let me give you some context. 3 months ago, Cory Lane approached me at a hotel bar. He was drunk, lonely, and very talkative about his affair with a married woman. He showed me photos, read me text messages, and bragged about how he was playing both his wife and his girlfriend." She turned to face the crowd. "I recorded everything. Would you like to hear it?" Cory's voice filled the ballroom, tinny and desperate through the hotel bar's ambient noise. "She thinks I'm going to leave my wife for her, but Alicia's got all the money. I'm just having fun until something better comes along." Elise staggered backward like she'd been physically struck. "You said you loved me." "I said a lot of things," Cory muttered. That's when Elise completely lost it. She lunged at Cory, screaming about lies and betrayal and wasted time. Hotel security moved in, but the damage was done. The crowd had their phones out, recording every moment of the meltdown. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said into the microphone as security escorted the fighting pair toward the exit. "You've just witnessed the end result of choices. Bad choices, made by people who thought they were entitled to whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted it, regardless of who got hurt." I looked out at the sea of faces, some shocked, some amused, all completely engaged. My wife wanted excitement in her life. She wanted drama, passion, something more interesting than a boring husband who paid the bills and remembered anniversaries. Well, she got what she wanted, and now she gets to live with the consequences. The ballroom erupted in applause. Not polite golf claps, but genuine, sustained applause from people who appreciated seeing justice served with style. Alicia joined me at the podium. Cory Lane thought he could have his cake and eat it too. He thought he could betray his marriage vows, his business partners, and his basic human decency without consequences. He was wrong. More applause. "The truth," I said, "is that actions have consequences. Lies have consequences. Betrayal has consequences. And sometimes those consequences are exactly what you deserve." As the crowd began to disperse, people came up to shake my hand, to offer their support, to express their admiration for how I'd handled the situation. Several business cards were pressed into my palm, new clients who appreciated working with someone who valued honesty and integrity. Mr. DeWitt was the last to approach. "Grant, that was masterfully done. Surgical precision with just the right amount of theater." "Thank you, sir. I hope you know that your reputation in this community has been enhanced, not damaged by tonight's events. People respect a man who stands up for himself with dignity and intelligence." Through the ballroom's tall windows, I could see Elise and Cory on the sidewalk outside, still arguing in the rain that had started falling. They looked small and pathetic. Two people who had destroyed everything they'd built for a few months of stolen pleasure. Miriam appeared beside me, handing me a glass of champagne. "So, boss, how does it feel to win?" I watched my ex-wife and her lover disappear into the Boston night, probably heading for separate, uncertain futures. Their reputations were in ruins, their careers were over, and their relationship had imploded in the most public way possible. "It feels," I said, raising my glass, "exactly like justice." The storm outside was getting worse, but inside the Fairmont's warm golden light, I was surrounded by people who respected me, opportunities for new business, and the satisfaction that comes from a job well done. Elise had wanted excitement. She'd wanted drama. She'd wanted something more than her boring, reliable husband. Well, she'd gotten everything she'd asked for, and more than she'd ever bargained for.